over, and is a symbol of what the Jewish people had to go through and pass over to get to their ultimate destination. This holiday commemorates the exodus of the Jewish people from Egypt, and it is an epic symbol of messianic redemption. Passover is celebrated in the month of Nisan, which is the month of joy, as is the feast of Pesach. For Messianic Jews and Gentiles, Passover is an important time to commemorate the death and burial of our Master and Messiah Yeshua. Apostle Paul, a Jewish rabbi, wrote in 1 Corinthians 5:7, Messiah is our Passover lamb, a clear prophetic connection between death and burial and resurrection of the Messiah and the ultimate fulfillment of Passover. As Messianic believers, we celebrate Passover by removing all traces of leaven, symbolic of sin, from our homes and participating in a special meal called a Seder, and by singing songs, saying prayers and blessing prayers of praise. On the last day of Passover, we remember the crossing of the Red Sea and celebrate the meal of Messiah. And as we all know, Yeshua loved to fellowship with us over a meal. We celebrate our Messiah and his resurrection and our hope in the coming kingdom. The Chassidic teachings teach us to the day of Passover bring spiritual insights and revelations about Messiah. I want to briefly touch on the fact that Orthodox Judaism sees Passover differently than does a Messianic Jew. To an Orthodox Jew, it is mainly a historical event symbolising redemption and freedom from slavery of Egypt and after 430 years of bondage. They see themselves as children of the covenant of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, and that God heard their cries and rescued them. Passover is not a personal type of holiday, but a communal, national one, as it includes all Jewish people and reminds them of their historical connection with God. To Messianic Jews, believers like myself, Passover is a personal holiday due to a personal relationship we have with Yeshua. Pesach marks for me personally the beginning of my freedom, and it asks us to partake in Jewish history and mainly reminds us of the love of Yeshua and the redemption of the slain lamb. I was asked to touch on one of the elements of the Seder plate, called the mirror, bitter herbs. Seder means a ceremony of order. The elaborate series of traditional rituals performed in a specific order. Bitter herbs, or mara, meaning bitter. Bitter herbs are a physical symbol to remind us of the bitterness experienced by the Jews in Egypt for 430 years. Usually, horseradish is used to bring the taste of the bitterness to the mouth, which will often make people tear up and remind them of the bitterness of Egyptian slavery and the plagues of Egypt. Eating the bitter herbs reminds us of what our ancestors endured, and as the Jewish people always say, may we never forget, as we often say about the Holocaust as well. None of us want to forget the pain endured by our people. Many say the plagues of Egypt also foreshadowed the time of the tribulation when God judged the whole earth as he once judged Egypt. The bitter herbs and the tears associated with the pain of the nations also reminds me of the high price Messianic Jews pay to follow Yeshua. As the freedom of the Jewish people came at a high price, so does following Yeshua even nowadays for many comes as a high cost. Jewish people even now often experience prejudice and discrimination. Some even say to this day that Jews killed Jesus and they should not have ever been called the chosen people. I am personally from Ukraine, and all of the Jewish side of my family, myself included, have experienced some form of discrimination for being Jewish. Some of my family members have, turn the page, have gone through the Holocaust and have fully known struggles of being Jewish. To this day, being a Messianic believer is quite unpopular and often misunderstood by both Orthodox Jews and even Gentiles. In Orthodox Jewish faith, Judaism. A Jew who believes in Messiah, the Yeshua, is ridiculed and can often be outcast and disowned from the family, as is considered a traitor and betrayed the faith and their family for choosing Yeshua. If a Jew believes in Yeshua as the Messiah, he or she is unceremonially rejected and denounced and no longer considered a legitimate Jew. An individual who believes in Messiah is a disgrace to the faith and their nationality. Gentiles often also misunderstood Messianic believers as they don't fully understand or cherish the Jewish history, culture and the background and how it is still relevant to our present day. Messiah will and still is a Jewish individual and who celebrated Passover and was raised in the Jewish culture and faith. Yeshua, our Passover lamb, celebrated Passover by going to the upper room and communing and fellowshipping with his disciples on Mount Zion during the Last Supper, which was the Passover Seder. I am grateful to Chris and Sharon for learning more about the Passover Seder and connecting both Jews and Gentiles by learning, experiencing and educating many on the Passover Seder and its relevance in the present day. I am also grateful for allowing me to share my perspective and experiences. I personally see Yeshua as the bridge connecting both Jews and Gentiles, for God says, Galatians 3:28, there is neither Jew nor Gentile, nor slave, nor free, nor is there male or female, for they all are in Christ Jesus. Romans 10:12, for there is no difference between Jews and Gentiles, the same Lord is Lord of all and richly blesses all who call on him.